Good morning, Big Brother fans. It is Monday, September 25th, day 55 in the Big Brother house. And it's been really boring. Sorry. Oops, just bumped my camera. I'm actually recording video today for the patrons so they can watch me while I talk about Big Brother. I'm the one who decided this was a thing. Nobody ever said, can you please record me? Record yourself. So, whatever. Anyways, it's been boring in the Big Brother house. There is not a whole lot going on with this whole... They showed it on TV last night. No head of household. No have-nots. No... They didn't say no have-nots, but nothing. Nothing except for Cameron and Jared doing their little battle back. And that's already been settled. As they showed last night. I guess they did it all partly because they were doing it in the backyard, so they needed to get it out of the way. They could have done it in the basement. And then they could have done it longer, right? It was just the two of them. But we watched it. What we haven't seen is the final part that they did. That was on Friday. And Cameron pulled it off and won it. So, and did I say this? No, I haven't said this yet. So Cameron won the ability, the possibility to decide who comes back in, or who gets to compete for the final live competition thing on Friday or Thursday to come back in the house. Now, whether it's true or not, Jared has implied that he was told that the puzzle was going to be, I'm assuming it's a puzzle. We don't know for sure what it is, but let's just say it's a puzzle. That he was told it was very difficult, which means Cameron may decide to make Jared try to do it. And if Jared manages to do it, Jared gets to come back in. If Jared doesn't do it, Jared doesn't get to come back in, and Cameron gets to come back in instead. That's what we know. And frankly, I don't particularly care right now. I think I'd rather see Cameron come back in because I think game dynamics wise, that keeps the playing field more level between the people that are left. But it is what it is. We'll just wait and see what happens. Other things that happened in the house. We saw and we heard about. So we heard about a big, huge blow up between Felicia. See, I'm trying to say Felicia instead of Felicia. Felicia and Cirie after Thursday night show, I guess, where she was really upset with Felicia, and Felicia about the vote, and Felicia was mad because she realized that they were trying to keep her in the house, or trying to keep Izzy in the house and not her. I guess it was like a 2-hour fight. At least Nicole kind of implied it was. And she said it was awkward because she was in there. And we saw a taste of it on last night's show. So, yeah, that looked like a pretty heated argument. And that was interesting. But we also saw a bit where there was I'd also heard about the fact that at the last minute during a commercial break, they'd approached Bowie to vote for, to keep Jared to vote Blue out. And it was kind of funny because Bowie kept saying, no, the majority house is going with to vote out Jared. And Cirie was like, we're the majority. The four of us in this room are the majority. We can decide what to do. They managed to, none of them, and Cirie was right, they didn't want to keep Jared, and so she realized that. But that was kind of a comical moment of sorts. Cirie decided just not to fight and not to push it any harder. She kind of just let go. There was also another moment in the editing last night I noticed where they showed Blue coming to, and we saw it on the show. We saw all this play out on the show, and that's why it's kind of interesting on how they edited it, because Blue went to Cameron, or Cameron and Blue got together after the power veto, or after the nominations, And Blue said, or before the nominations, right after Cameron won Head of Household, Blue and Cameron were the first two to get together in the bathroom. And Blue said, don't nominate me, and I won't use the power veto. Right? And Cameron said, you promise? She said, 100%, I won't. And Cameron's like, okay. And the next person Cameron talked to, which they did not show last night, but it happened on the TV show, was Jag. And Cameron went to Jag and said, Blue's not going to use the power veto if I just nominate her and Jared. If I just nominate Jared and Cirie. And Jag said, no. Can't. We have to do it. We have to stick with the plan. We have to put up Blue and Jared. And Cameron's kind of like, okay, fine. But for some reason, they left that bit out. And they edited it to imply that Cameron was the one that made this decision. I mean, he did make this decision, but he was willing to not put Blue up. And they edited that out of the next show. It was shown on the show before. So if you're curious, if you want to go back and watch it to see sometimes when we talk about how editing versus reality, they changed the storyline a little bit. I think, at least my impression was, they changed the storyline because adding the Jag, that little bit from Jag in there, confused the storyline of Cameron's Head of Household. He's making or not Cameron. Corey is did I say Cameron that whole time? There we go. If I've been saying Corey that whole time, I mean to say Cameron. Or if I said Cameron that whole time, I meant to say Corey. But Corey was the one making the decisions there. When Corey was willing to not put up Blue for at least 30 seconds. Until Jag said, no, you have to put up Blue. So I found that interesting. I'm grasping at straws here, guys. I really had to think of what am I going to talk about today, because first of all, well, it's twofold. First of all, I haven't been watching the feeds much this weekend, but I have been keeping tabs, and I have read various sites. I have watched Twitter. I've retweeted things. I've been checking in. There just isn't much going on. I've turned on the feeds for myself. I turned them on last night in time to find Corey and America in the shower together making out. Now, what may never be shown, and what I know certain sites have implied, is that they weren't clothed, but they were wearing their bathing suits. I watched the whole scene, and America was in her bathing suit, and I assumed that Corey was as well, and I was confirmed when America, when they finally stopped, they started out doing it for the camera, right? Because they had the camera in the house, because I guess they got the camera and party stuff because Corey's birthday is on Friday. I think it's Corey's, maybe Cameron's. I think it's Corey's. Whose ever birthday is on Friday, they got party stuff for them. And so they were taking a picture. Nicole was taking their picture of the two of them in the shower, but they both had their bathing suits on. And eventually, America said, I'm going back over to the other side now, to the other side of the shower curtain with the thing. And that's when Corey was like, okay, well, I'm taking off my bathing suit. He literally took off his bathing suit and draped it over the door. So they were both clothed, as it were, while they were making out, and it was kind of, some people assumed that they weren't. Like Felicia walked in on them and had a big reaction. I don't know if any of this will make the TV show, where they're gonna be unlimited stuff they can show on Thursday night, but that could be a for later thing. If both of them stay in the house much longer, they can use that in another titillating segment at some point down the road. Have I gotten through everything? I think I've gotten through virtually everything. Jared is still talking to Cirie like, I think Blue may know. I think she's figured it out. I think, or worked it out. And whatever, Jared, you told her. Don't stop telling your mom that you think Blue's figured it out when in reality you told her. Anything else? Nope, that's about it. We'll talk about some other things now, because we can, and it's going to be a very slow week like this. There's one other thing. They're getting up maybe early in the morning, but we don't know why. I prepare to be disappointed. I can't anticipate why they would be getting up early in the morning for anything, but they think they might be doing something, but I can't imagine what it would be. So there you go. There's your one last thing. So what else is going on in the world? In the world of TV, apparently the writers are close to an agreement. They're on strike, remember. The writers and the actors are both on strike. The Writers Guild and the Screen Actors Guild are both striking right now, and that's one of the reasons we have 100 days of Big Brother going on right now in the fall. And they have reached a tentative agreement, although other outlets, media outlets, some media outlets are saying tentative agreement, some media outlets are saying no, not yet. But New York Times reported a tentative outline, or tentative agreement yesterday, and NPR was reporting it this morning on the news that I listened to. So it seems like they're close to signing something, which means that the talk shows and stuff will probably start right back up. The actors, of course, haven't reached it yet, but they should hopefully not be too far behind. And then what means is that we'll all start paying more money for our streaming. I know that's my guess, that they're going to use as an excuse to bump our prices on streaming. But whatever, I'm glad for them. The AI stuff was a bit concerning to me. The replacing actors and voices with artificial intelligence. I'm not a doom and gloom and the sky is falling kind of person, but it is an amazing technology, and it does give them the ability to basically replace people with simulations that look just like people, and it's amazing, the technology, but I do still want people that, do the work to get. I don't want their work to disappear from them, and I'm not going to get into the arguments of how this creates more work in other ways. I see it as basically, it's amazing the amount of the type of the creativity and stuff. You still have to reshape it, but it's doing an awful lot of the heavy lifting and an awful lot of the creativity, and it's a good tool. But I get it. Okay, I digress. All right, so that all being said, what else do we have to talk about? Personally, as I said, I know I tweeted it. I don't know if you guys know. I went to Farm Aid this weekend. I had a friend who had 2 tickets, and so my wife and I got to go on the spur of the moment. That was fun. That was amazing. That was a good little treat. There are people out there who don't know what Farm Aid is, and Farm Aid is a concert musical thing to raise money for farmers. It came about right after Live Aid, in part because of Bob Dylan, something he said at Live Aid about it would be great if some of this money could go to help the farmers. Live Aid was a concert to raise money for Ethiopia, and Bob Dylan during that concert said it would be nice. Oh, we'll edit that out. My wife sent me a text, and of course I'm using my extra phone. All right, so Live Aid was about Ethiopia, and Bob Dylan said, why can't we use some of this money, or it'd be nice to use a little bit of this money for the farmers. And of course they weren't. They were using it for that, but it inspired Willie Nelson, Neil Young, and John Mellencamp to do a concert called Farm Aid, start a concert series called Farm Aid, and that was 38 years ago. 38 years ago. So I am at least 38 years old. That's what I take out of that. And so this is the 38th year. It happened to be in Noblesville, Indiana, which is not near me, but it's within a couple hour drive of where I live. And so I had a friend who had a couple of extra tickets, and my wife and I went to it. And we saw lots of great musicians. We got there in the late afternoon, and we managed to see lots of people. Finishing off with Dave Matthews and, I can't think of the female singer's name, who's a country artist who I remember her. I've seen her perform, but I didn't know her by name, and I can't tell you her name right now, and I'm not going to look it up. And then John Mellencamp, Neil Young, and Willie Nelson. Did I say Willie Nelson originally? Don't remember. Willie Nelson. It was Willie Nelson, Neil Young, and John Mellencamp that were the original founders. If I said Bob Dylan, it's because he was on my mind, because they performed in order of age. It was John Mellencamp first, then Neil Young, and then there was a special guest that wasn't announced, that they didn't tell us who it was, and then Will Nelson came out after that. The special guest, as I said, was never announced. The stage was very dark, except they did finally turn the lights, but I don't think I was watching very closely, and it was far enough away that my eyes could not see it. But my friend had a zoom lens that I didn't see, and he'd zoomed in on it, but my friend didn't know who the person was because he's much younger than us. And it sounded like Bob Dylan, and I'm like, God, who is this act, and why does it sound like Bob Dylan? And I'm like thinking it's Willie Nelson's son out there with the band before Willie Nelson comes out, and they're playing, and Willie Nelson's eventually going to walk out, because they just didn't announce it. And the big screens, they had the big screens, and they were turned off, so you could not see the stage very well. But this guy sounded just like Bob Dylan. And so I'm like, but he wasn't playing songs that I recognize as Bob Dylan songs. Now, what the funny thing is that two of them were very well known Bob Dylan songs, but he wasn't singing them in the way I've heard them sung before, and frankly, I wasn't catching the lyrics, because although the sound sounded good on recording devices, to my ears, it did not sound very clear. All right, I'm making all kinds of excuses, but the plain truth of it is I couldn't see Bob Dylan on stage. I thought it sounded like Bob Dylan, but I was like, why is someone who sounds like Bob Dylan on, and why didn't they announce him and all that stuff? It turns out it was indeed Bob Dylan. He played 3 songs. Turns out the band he was on stage with, which again, could not see anything, was the Heartbreakers, or at least a good portion of the Heartbreakers from Tom Petty's band. At least a good portion of them were on stage too, which would be great to have known. It would have been awesome if they introduced them, but they didn't introduce them. All right. So I had a moment that I didn't know I was having, and it was very cool. Concert was fun, and I got home at 1:45 in the morning. So yeah, that was a late night for me. Then I caught up a little bit yesterday on the feeds and everything, and we're back to going to work on a Monday. And that's what I got for you guys. I've been watching other reality shows. I tweeted about it late last week. I think I finished the season 2 of Australia Traders Australia. I finished season 2, and I am actually about 3 or 4 episodes into. Yeah, I think I'm on the 3rd episode of New Zealand, the Traders New Zealand, and it's okay. It's all right. I mean, you can tell it's not it's kind of like saying, it's kind of like a local version of the Traders. It's not quite, the production quality isn't quite as high as the Traders Australia or the Traders US or England, but it's still good. But there was one point where, and this is not giving anything away, where if you've seen this Traders UK, and I think they maybe did in the US version, but they had to ring bells, and the other people, half the group had to ring bells, and the other group had to try to guess what the bells were. Now, they were ringing bells in an old church, and the house, the other group was at the castle or at the lodge or whatever, listening for the ringing of the church, like a quarter mile away or whatever. On the New Zealand version, they had handbells, and the other part of the house, the other part of the cast was on the other side of a hedgerow. They could hear them talking. It was kind of it was like, all right, and the bell and the music boxes that they in the UK version, they had to run it through the house and find a music box or find clues and bring them back to the person. In the New Zealand version, all the music boxes were on a folding table in front of them. I'm not kidding you. I swear it was a folding table. So it was like, all right, this is the New Zealand version, but it's still good. It still has the same, the same situation where they talk it out and vote each other, and when they do the murders, and actually, I like it so far. I'm enjoying it. I'm going to watch it all. But it was it's funny on the production side, a couple things where it was like, yeah, maybe this isn't quite as high a production level as some of the bigger countries. But again, still good. So worth a watch. And I don't know any of the people, even though a lot of them are well-known personalities in New Zealand. It doesn't matter because I don't know any of them, unlike the U.S. version where I knew, a lot of the people. I'm like, I don't want to see people I know in it. I want to see people I don't know. Maybe that's all it is. I just need to see people I don't know from other reality shows. Everybody else is loving it. I love to see these people again. I'm like, no, not me. I want to see all fresh faces every time. All right. With that, I'm going to wrap it up. It's been a treat. I have to remember to edit out the text message from my wife in the middle of this. And then I'll get this posted sometime today. You're not missing anything if it's late. It's just nothing's going on in Big Brother for the week, guys. Don't forget, Survivor starts on Wednesday and Amazing Race. I know, as I said, I've made it quite clear, I know someone that's on Survivor. I hope he lasts as long as ultimately possible. And there's this little tiny part of me that's like, oh, he hasn't been on the previews much. Does that mean he goes early? Or does that mean he goes a really long time and they're not showing us much of him yet because we're going to get to know him as it goes on? I'm really hoping it's the latter. I'm really hoping he's like into the end and they're just saving him because it's, we're going to save him for the later part. We'll see. We'll see. I hope. And I also, in theory, not in theory, I do. I know, having seen him play and maybe even played a game or two of Sequester with him, someone that's supposed to be on Amazing Race with his mom, I'm not 100% sure. They talked about changing the seasons around, so I'm not 100% sure that he's on this season or not, but I'll know soon enough, and I will watch probably the first episode of Amazing Race at least, just to see. Amazing Race has become a little bit too formulaic for me, and I used to love that show. That used to be my favorite show, and now it's all casting. You have to be a social media influencer or have some kind of connection to get cast. Almost, not everybody, but a lot of them. All right, again, with that, I'm out of here. I'm waving goodbye to my patrons who are watching. If you want to be a patron, you can. All you have to do is go to patreon.com/BBGOSSIP, BB Gossip, and you can sign up. There are a chunk of people who have been doing it for years. There are people that come and do it during the Big Brother season and then sign off when it's not Big Brother season, which I totally get. I appreciate everyone that does it. And if you want to, I will give you a shout out. I am due to give the entire group a shout out, and I will do that soon. But again, I do appreciate all you guys. And there you go. With that, I'll talk to you all later on. All right. Now I have to carefully. We're going to wait till I get to the stoplight to shut this off because it's a little bit different on my phone than it is on my when I'm doing it for my just audio only. All right. There we go. We're at a stoplight. Goodbye. See you later.